Good morning. Look at you guys, HACK&Co team right here, right now. I've got to go around a little bit and introduce, I can confirm now for the first time that we are also live on Instagram. So we're
Let's
probably
go.
going to optimize this in the future to go vertical instead of horizontal. So you might have to turn your device if you're joining us on Instagram or really Facebook. Turn your device, get the widescreen experience. Because you are looking at what we can now pretty much confirm as the top team at Remax River City for 2023. You guys had a great year. We just got back from Toronto talking to agents there about outperforming markets because we've wrapped up 2023 now, and this team is up 15% in a market that was down 20%. Okay. So there's some people out there that they have some confusion right now because really, what the hell's going on? Edmonton's being looked at from locally and also nationally as this pretty interesting investment. So we're going to unpack that a little bit. We got some stats to run through, but we're mainly going to be talking about what the hell's going on in Edmonton. What do you guys think is what's the biggest thing happening here right now?
Low inventory. There's not enough good properties out there for sale right now.
Okay, so inventory has been the story of this year, right? Of 2023, inventory has been the story. Our trend is that we're way down. How down are we? Like, what's the hardest thing to find out there?
Move-in
Probably the
ready
hardest
homes
thing
is a
right
big
now would
thing.
be move-in ready homes. Move-in ready homes in like the 400 to 500 range seem to be really tough to find. There's either some stuff that's smaller on the lower end in maybe neighborhoods that are less desirable, or there's some stuff that's higher end that maybe is overpriced that should be a 4 to 5, but it's in the 6.
Can you take me into that experience? Like, where have you been and what have you been looking for? Like, you've been out recently where you've had trouble finding something in that range?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been mostly looking in the southwest of Edmonton for newer homes, usually newer than like 2020. So they could be already lived in, second owners, looking to move in there. But what we're seeing for the price is you can get much better deals on the north side, but in some of the lesser brand name neighborhoods that most people that we're working with aren't interested in moving to. But yeah, it just seems like a lot of inventory that might be overpriced is sitting for a long time. And we're seeing a lot of that with builds. There's a lot of spec homes that builders are like really hesitant to give deals on. And, there's not a lot of movement on them.
I see what you mean. I'm working through some camera issues, so I think I just left and came back, but I am here. Cordell, what's hard to find? Like, if somebody came to you right now and they said, "Hey, I'm looking for this," and you gave them the cringies, ooh, what are they looking for?
So I'm actually working with a client right now. We're looking in the price range of 350 to 450. And the hardest thing we're finding is properties that meet that also have more than 3 bedrooms and a finished basement. That has been a struggle bus all around the city to find.
That's interesting. And sometimes when you find those things, you're not the only one that found them. James, this month you had come upon a property and you weren't the only ones that found it. How many offers did you compete against?
That's right. We found a property in the north of Edmonton, and it was very well priced, actually under list price a little bit. But we ended up getting into a multiple offer situation with 9 other offers, which was crazy. But it was quite a challenge. But we came out on top, and our client won that property.
That's interesting. So let's unpack that a little bit. You said that it was what you mean is that it was listed under market. So you were really surprised when you started to research that property and say, okay, because you're researching a property to give your client a safe number, right?
Yeah,
Don't
that's
spend
exactly
over
right.
this amount. And you were really surprised at the results of that because you're like, wait a second, you can buy this property significantly over its list price
That's
and
right.
it's still at market value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quite a surprise. You don't see that very often. So it was kind of an uncommon situation.
And it was successful in aspects for that seller because they attracted 9 offers.
That's right.
So we're
That's right.
getting into this era with low inventory here where we're starting to see list price as a marketing tool,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way.
right? Like I think that we used to be able to say things like list price is what the seller would like. And now list price is a marketing tool because sometimes it's undefined, meaning that we're not going to know what this property is going to sell for because we can assume based on market trends that all the comparables up until now were a time ago and less valuable than this.
See, we like to talk about sports references here. And so this reminds me of like fighting, right? Different weight classes. You get to decide which weight class you're going to compete in with your list price.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty interesting to see that. Jane, when you've been out looking at property, you said you were looking at some condos that saw multiple offers as well.
Yes, that's right. I have a very good experience with my client because we run into a townhouse. We against 4 other offers for a townhouse, and we get it. But like the reason is that townhouse on the market for just 1 day, and lots of offer come in because of its price right. So I think price the property correctly is very important.
Tony, when's the last time that you saw condos catching multiple offers?
For me personally, mid-December, a couple of out-of-town buyers that were looking to buy something that could become an investment property for them once they kind of got the lay of the land. And so I ran into 2 separate multiple offers with 2 different buyers, 2 families looking to do that same thing. And both on the north side of Edmonton, just great price properties for the buildings, offering, maybe unique features. Like for instance, we got one we scooped up that ended up having 4 underground parking stalls, which is very uncommon, and for under 200 grand especially. So yeah, interesting to see what's out there right now.
I think so too. So this is a sign that basically the trend is changing. We've seen the majority of the last 5 years, every single month in a buyer's market when we look at the 5-year average, right? And now when we take a look at what we saw in 2023, did 2023 feel like a buyer's advantage?
Not at all.
It was, right? Like we had 5.3 months of inventory in January, which would have been a significant buyer's advantage. We were coming off a really cool 2022 fall. And then starting off this year, a little sluggish, right? But what was different is 2022 cooled near the end, right? Interest rates were causing that cool. But now near the end of 2023, we start hearing that they're not going to raise rates again. Like in December, they made announcements. So those announcements aren't actually having a reaction in the marketplace yet, but we already saw that it was starting to move. Like I was looking at this year, and from May, we've been in this seller's advantage, and kind of the worst it's been is right now where it's a little bit above balance into a buyer's market, but just a flickering edge.
Mm-hmm. We know that that's a lot of the time of year, right? Like there's always going to be less inventory at this time of year, but the demand hasn't really changed, right? Like there might be some locals here that are like, we don't really want to do this at this time of year, right? We don't have to move at this time of year, but there's still so much attention on Alberta because of the pricing and the way I think people are feeling the pressure. So we're still seeing an influx of people. And so that's that pent up demand that's still pushing through and trying to find those good properties.
Absolutely. Because like from an average standpoint, like right now you can like the average pricing in Edmonton is $388,000. You want a house? Well, 489,000 is the average of them. Right? That's the average price of single family detached right now. But when we say the market is changing, Cordell, sometimes you're working with some people that, maybe haven't transacted in a while. I know last year you had represented some people that hadn't transacted in like 20 years. So if they're approaching the market really not knowing what's happening, and you saw somebody who was like the statistics say that we're at balance right now, but they're trying to buy a house between 400,000 and 500,000, is that going to be their experience?
Not at all. They're probably going to feel a lot more pressured. The biggest key that I've been working with clients about is speed. If we see a nice property show up in their search, we want to try and be there quick. You know, if we're not the first ones there, we want to try and be one of the first ones there. I actually just went out on some showings in this criteria, and in 2 out of the 5 properties we were seeing, there was people leaving as we were showing up and people showing up as we were leaving. That's the experience that people are having right now.
Same.
Keep going, Jane.
Yes, I experienced the same situation like Cordell have. Like right now, we saw something, we go immediately, try to be the first one there. Because right now, whenever property we touch, like lots of interest and offers coming, so we need to move fast.
Yeah, the good stuff is going quick, and this is going to be sharky for a while, right? Like when we talk about January, February, when does the inventory normally really start to pile in?
I'd say usually it's like, April is when we start to see an influx of the new listings come into the market. And we've been talking to our, let's say we've got families that are looking to make a change in 2024. We've been talking about kind of getting out ahead of that. Maybe it's March that they might want to get their house to the market because there's so much more attention, and they might actually be able to win and, get a better home because there might be less competition for the stuff that they like as well.
Yeah, like if we were talking about prior to 2022, we would have broke 7,000 listings as we transition from March to April, right? As a market. We had 7,000 listings barely twice this year. And that was in May and June. And I'm not talking 7,000 listings in 1 month. I'm talking total inventory, all the houses or all the properties for sale in the greater Edmonton area. And we've just been super short. Like we're closing right now with 4,600 properties for sale. Normally there's 5,100, and that's not as bad as it was earlier. Like if you look back into 20, we used to see it hit 10,000 in the middle. Like even prior to COVID, 2019, you see 9,500 listings on the market in July. In 2023, there are 7,000.
Yeah, that's when we had super nervous sellers, right? Because they weren't getting as many showings. Offers were few and far between, and now it's really switched to that. The good stuff goes quick, and sellers aren't as nervous. They have a little bit more confidence if they've got a great home. And so it's important to mention that this is the lowest inventory time of year, but also we're seeing the lowest inventory of all year right now.
So let's give some perspective on that. Before, we used to tell people that, like, okay, why don't you list your house for sale? Let's wait until we get some action on it, but have some ideas of some properties that you might like to buy. And then as soon as you go pending, we're going to rush out and go find something. Was that pretty much the playbook that we had been running?
100%.
Now, this trend continues. This low inventory trend continues. What are the smart agents doing in that buyer and seller combo now?
Getting the client prepared, right? Getting to know their property, making sure they feel confident with the list price and what they can, get for their home when we do list it. But actually going to find the next property first,
That's the big one.
Yeah, working with their lender to make sure that they're on board to know that, hey, we're going to pick something up. We're going to get, 60 to 90 days for possession. And as soon as we get that one locked up, we're going to list this house. And then we'll have it all sold, conditions removed before they have to move to the next place. And so it's kind of tricky. There's obviously some risk, but we've been doing this, and it's definitely one of those ways to solve those families that are like, we don't want to be homeless in between selling our place and finding the next one, and not having to rush into something that doesn't check all their boxes.
Yeah, that's a big one. So Cordell, you were saying being really fast on these new listings, but those people that have properties to sell, they have a problem, right? Are they going to be competitive bringing an offer subject to sale into a multiple offer scenario?
Not at all. Subject to sale in general is more of a weak stance. I've talked to a lot of people that think it's the right way to go, but unfortunately, it just takes away your negotiating power because you have this looming thing over the agreement of my house has to sell. Moving forward, I wouldn't recommend to one of my sellers to accept a subject to sale offer. So I don't know why most agents would in this point of the market.
Man, how much money would it have to be? right? Like if the top offer was 500,000 and somebody else wanted to win that property but weakened their agreement, weakened their offer with a subject to sale, how much more money before the buyer says, yeah, okay, I'll do that? Like it wouldn't be 505, it wouldn't be 510. Are you really going to want to start to get like 4 or 5% over the other highest offer to win this?
Yeah.
Like that's irresponsible.
Mhm.
So the
Absolutely.
point of certainty has moved. So before, Tony, in 2019, were you pretty confident that you could find somebody something that they want to buy?
That they wanted to buy, absolutely. You know, being
Hell
in a
yeah.
buyer's market,
9,000 properties on the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And only one buyer for every 2 sellers, 2 houses for every buyer in the marketplace. So I think that we would be really confident, and that's why we spend a lot of time saying like, hey, you got to get your like buying's no problem. Everybody wants to be a buyer. But selling something is challenging. So let's clear that hurdle first. And now we're coming into a market where we're like, you know what? We can pretty much bring you certainty on your sale. You know, we have enough data of recent sales to be able to tell you where it's going to go. We're going to use strategies in order to get the best out of that opening weekend. And you may not know exactly how much money is in your pocket, but you do need to buy. The pressure's on the purchase. And if you can't find what you want, that's going to be where the challenge is. And where are these people going to go if they sell something and can't find anything to buy? Like there's no rentals. They're going to be the Airbnb in it. What other problems do you guys foresee in 2024?
Buyers, local buyers that are going head to head with out of town buyers. You know, for instance, I'm working with a guy from BC. He's going to be selling his place. He's going to be a cash buyer, right? That's a pretty strong point to come from. And he's going to be competing on stuff that's super hot in the, you know, acreage world with shops and stuff like that. And so I feel super confident representing him. But I know that a lot of local buyers that aren't, maybe their game hasn't improved or sharpened to the point where they're going to be head to head with some of these other competing buyers that can make unconditional offers or really short turnaround times for conditions. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for local consumers.
So the level of play here with multiple offers right now is that in the majority of multiple offers, most buyers have conditions. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've seen from other marketplaces that we've been studying, like a few of us just came back from Toronto. We've also been in Vancouver in the last quarter, talking to some agents that really struggled with low inventory because that's what we're seeing here. What did they see change first? Like in the beginning, the first thing you lose might be like length of time for conditions. Like, well, instead of having financing to you in 10 days, we're going to have that in 7 and then maybe 6 and then maybe 5. But then people start dropping that. What's the first thing that the public, knowing that they're not going to be competitive, what is the first condition they choose to drop?
Inspection.
The home inspection.
I think it's financings.
And I can see both. I think that like one, I don't think that people really get it here yet. They don't understand the cost of losing. So let's unpack that a little bit. When Toronto was as hot as it got, the average buyer would write 8 offers before they would actually buy something. Why was that bad for them?
Each offer got more expensive.
Let's go Cordell and then Tony.
Well, yeah, just like what Tony said. So if property number 1 sells and they lose in multiple offers, property number 2 is going to base their price off of property number 1. And then it just moves up the ladder. So now property number 8 is basing off property number 7, which based off all the rest. So you're probably looking at between a $20,000 to $50,000 swing based on all of these properties consecutively selling in multiple offers.
And
yeah, and that's what it would have.
Right?
Go ahead, Tony.
People get more desperate. They're tired of shopping. You get that buyer fatigue. You know, they're going to be homeless soon if they don't find a place, and so they're going to be coming in over the top. Plus, you're going to be competing with those other people that didn't get the house as well. And if it's similar, right? So it's just a snowball effect. And so that's the type of stuff we are hearing from these other markets, and that's what Taylor's trying to mention now about our market.
And Jane, you represent a lot of clients that are coming in from other places in the world. These people are bringing cash.
Yes, they bring in cash, and like they usually like, okay, I buy that, waive the financing. I don't need financing. But like, so we try to short the inspection. Like instead of like we need 10 days, we just did 3 days. So that's how we play in multiple offers.
Okay, so now Tony, if you were competing with one of Jane's clients,
Mm-hmm.
she's coming in there with 3 days to remove a home inspection and no financing condition. If her offer was 500 on a place that was maybe listed for 490, how would you have to, like, what would you have to do to beat her?
Well, I would probably be leaning into, I would have my, pre-approval letter with the lender. I would probably already have our inspection either pre-booked for the next day or already having a main component inspection done already prior to the, offer presentation time, because we've got some really great trusted experts there. And then, you know what, I've even been talking to some lenders and they're saying, just give us 24 hours. If they've got all our if we got all their documents and everything, and the underwriter just wants to look at that property to make sure, like if I could get in there with 1 day for financing and that's it, I probably would be really competitive at the same price, or just like $5,000 over.
So when sellers are looking at this, a lot of the time they don't care about cash. This is something that I think most people are confused about. Car dealerships care whether you're cash or not. All right, they care because the cost of financing is inside the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Sellers of real estate give 0 Fs where the money came from, as long as it's not going to result in cop cars later.
They just want the money to show up.
That's the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So whether you're using a bank or not, the biggest thing for them is time of uncertainty, right? So at the same price, they're going to know in 3 days whether their property sold with Jane, and they're probably not going to know with somebody who's financing for at least 5 days, if they're pretty fast. So for a seller, if everything else was equal, there's not a lot of question between those two offers, because it's just 3 days or 5 days for them, right? But if it was 5 days and $3,000 more money, you might see them start to equal out there. So this is where you see people compete and how they form these things. And also, let's give some benchmarks just so people can see a little bit of like how people that deal in multiple offers break this down. So Tony, property's fresh on the market. It looks like it's right on market value, but there's lots of interest in it. It's listed for $500,000, and you're competing against one other offer. Are you going to be under or over list price?
Over list price.
How much?
You said there was 500,000?
Yeah.
I'd say probably 510, 515 is probably where we would be, just based on competing with one other agent.
Okay. So it depends on where you are and what you're calculating out. So Tony's giving a reaction that doesn't have a lot of context to it. Coming into the same circumstance, what would you think, Tony? What would you think, Cordell? Coming in, the price is about 500,000. Everybody wants their client to win by only $1, right?
Yeah.
You want to win by just like a little bit.
Yeah, I think for myself, if I was recommending to my clients, I don't think if it was just one other offer, I don't think we'd be playing on a lot of price, right? We'd probably maybe go 505, but we'd be very tight with our conditions. 2 days home inspection, 3 days financing. We'd be selling the seller on our certainty rather than just inflating the cost.
So that's something that we are all trained to do, right? Like we have competition offer protocol. Mm-hmm. So you were breaking it down. They are going to know who our lender is. They're going to have a pre-approval letter. They're also going to know that our home inspection is already scheduled, and it's going to be a short turnaround because we are ready to win. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to know a fair amount of our clients, right? We'll tell them a little bit about what our client's story is so they can get that personal connection. But the big thing is that agents in our marketplace recognize the jersey that we wear. Like other agents call me all the time and say, "Can you tell me about your lender list?" And I'm like, "Sure, why?" And they're like, "Because your teammates never miss. If I go pending with a HACK&Co teammate, I get a sold sign every single time." And I'm like, yeah, that's part of our competition offer process. We go in and we tell people that like we will bring you that finish line because we want you to choose us. And our client has been conditioned well enough that they know they're not making a bad choice. So there's no reason to back off. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's 100% right. And it also reminded me of the time we had to save a deal using our own lender because the buyer's lender didn't do what they needed to do.
Were you on the buyer or seller side for that?
I was on the seller side.
So you were the listing agent and they brought you the best offer, but then they were about to hit the ground.
Yeah. And the other agent was super transparent and was like, listen, this is kind of what we're up against. Everything looked like it was in a row. And now this is what we're dealing with. And I was like, all right, let's figure this out. And we were able to get them to one of our mortgage brokers. And I know, for instance, that realtor and mortgage broker actually work together now. So they're on each other's lists. And I think it was a pretty smooth handoff, but it saved our seller because they needed to sell. And it was good to be able to keep that deal in place. And it only took a couple extra days.
Man, there's so many people that don't understand how this works. If your mortgage person does anything aside from mortgages, if they open accounts, if they approve credit cards, if they do loans, they are not a mortgage person. Because if they were good at mortgages, they wouldn't be able to afford to do anything else. If you are good at mortgages, you are a broker or a specialist. If you are not good at mortgages, you work in a bank and do other things too. I used to work in a bank, and I will flat out argue with anybody who tells me otherwise. So if you happen to be like, okay, I got pre-approved, in the branch, well, let's get you to the pro team. We need some people who know how to help you win, because if you made a multiple offer on my listing and your agent tells me that it is an unknown lender, and then I inquire further and they say, oh yeah, the client's working with their bank, at the same price, you're going to lose to anybody who's got a game day lender. So that's where people can win without price, like Cordell was talking about, or lose even being the top offer. My clients didn't choose the top offer on every one of my multiple offers last year. They didn't, because sometimes the top offers, you can even see in the way they wrote the agreement that they are new. Right? It's like, it's sad. Jane, you're smiling. What do you have to add to this?
Yeah, I experienced that. When we saw those things happen, like even with the listing agent, we saw that we know that we can get a deal for my buyer. I know I can get a deal for my buyer. And for about a multiple offer, I usually do the same thing with that Cordell did, but I usually put the deposit high also to get my offer look really good with the seller. So yeah, that's also one of my strategy too.
And people need agents that know how to win, because the cost of losing is too high. If you win on your 8th offer, you have already lost. Right? Like, look at Tony when he was getting ready for that offer. You could see that he understands in this market at $500,000, he needs to win. Even if he had to pay a little bit more for this house. We're also going to be in an environment where properties are rising in price over time. So if you delay the possession, you can pay more and still hit market value. That is the level of play on this real estate team. Is we will find you the responsible win. So when we're talking to people about approaching the market in 2024, let's first talk to the people that are the least established and need the most help. Tony, what's the best advice you can give to a first-time home buyer? Just give me one. We're going to go around.
Get pre-approved, provide all your documents.
Be ready, financing ready. James?
Find an agent who can really help you understand the market and the process, especially if you're a first-time buyer.
Ask your agent what happens if we get into multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like, well, it's kind of a game of chance, like they're going to pick one of us, you are in the wrong shop.
Yeah.
Right? People that think poker is you win some, you lose some, lose to people that play poker and know how to win. Jane, first-time home buyers.
Prepare yourself with the knowledge and understand the process clearly.
Mm-hmm. And Cordell?
Just know that once you get started in this market, be ready to be quick. Right? Like, don't expect, it comes on the market on Monday, let's go see it on Saturday. That just won't play well.
And what I would say is that you need to see some sold properties. So come in, have a blueprint meeting with us so that you can see the competitive landscape. If the first time you know that most of the properties you're trying to buy sell over list price is the time that you're in front making an offer, you're already in trouble. So what if we just agree that list prices in 2024 are going to be a marketing tool, and that we need to understand more what buyers are paying for things than what sellers are baiting us in with? That's how it's going to work. That's how you're going to save yourself as a first-time home buyer from being what we call a packing peanut. Because we talked about what happens when you run into one offer. James, do you think that the property will sell, between 500 and 510 if it was listed at 500 and there's 20 offers? Oh, I'm not getting any volume from you. Did anybody else hear him?
Right. I would assume it would sell more than 510.
Yeah. And Jane, 25 offers, where does it go from 500?
25 offer?
25 offers.
10% over, at least.
So you're thinking that it's going to be over 550?
Yes.
Okay, I
25
saw
offers
over a 50, or I saw a $28,000 spread on 12 offers last year at 460. So like at 25 offers, we're going to start seeing like 600,000 on 500,000. So know that the more offers that you're in competition with, it's showing the demand for that supply. And we're going to help you understand how that turns into offer price and market value. It's going to be really cloudy and fast this year. And those hot listings and those not listings are going to be neighbors. They're going to share sugar. And you don't want to buy the losers. So this is the big thing is why we do things like this live stream, is because we want to save you from a 3-star experience in real estate. We want to help you save yourself. And if you enter into the jungle with the wrong guide, you may leave the jungle with less limbs than you wanted. You don't want to have to pay an arm and a leg, right? So that's the big thing. So I appreciate everybody joining and me this morning, helping us unpack and share some of the stories in real estate. Is there anything else that you would want to call into 2024 before we break? If you're selling something, we have a listing launch process that will show you how to get all the offers. That's my 2024 notes.
Let's go.
All right, guys. Let's take care of all the people we know.
Right on.
Have a great day, and thanks so much for joining us. If you want more information on this, you can call the Fast Agent hotline at 780-909-6770. My name is Taylor Hack. I'm here with Anthony D'Souza, Jane Vu, Cordell Schur, and James McDonald. Together with our support team, we are the HACK&Co team, and we are ready to help you as one of the highest rated and reviewed real estate teams in Edmonton, coming off a record year in a down market. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So,
See you guys.
See ya.
yeah.